Okay, we wanted to do. We're on what? What are we on? We're on lesson 70?
Yes, 70. I was reading from the wrong one anyway.
Yeah, we're on lesson 70.
Okay.
So let me do that. My salvation comes from me. All temptation is nothing more than some form of basic temptation not to believe the idea for today. Salvation seems to come from anywhere. Salvation seems to come from anywhere except from you. So too does the source of guilt. You see neither guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. In understanding this, you are saved. So keep going.
Okay.
Read 2.
The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside yourself can save you. Nothing outside can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you, or disturb your peace, or upset you in any way. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe, where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and you must surely begin to see that accepting it is salvation.
Now, yesterday's, we did 69, and my grievances hide the light of the world in me. No one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you. Everyone stands in darkness, and you beside him. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with him. Share your salvation now with him who stood beside you. So, what I thought about yesterday with this, and I wanted to drag it into today's, I'm trying to keep this in mind, is that my sense, these clouds, because we're talking about these clouds that are surrounding. What are these clouds? The clouds that are surrounding the light. What are these clouds that are surrounding the light?
They're all of our thoughts and judgments. Every single one of them is a thought and a judgment that I have about myself and the world. So that's what shows up in my clouds. When I did the meditation yesterday, it was kind of interesting because, I don't know, Josh says you draw a circle around the mind and then the clouds are around that and then you look through them. I couldn't really quite understand it. But anyway, in mine, I'm in the middle and I want to get outside of the clouds. So my mind is in the middle of the circle and the clouds are all around me. And you're supposed to meditate and see yourself going through them. And interestingly enough, when I tried to do that at first, the clouds were kind of bouncy. Like they had substance to them. They weren't just little puffy things.
Okay, but I'm going to say something about that whole cloud thing. It's easy to get fixated on this idea that I'm going through, that the clouds have a reality. And the point that I want to say with it is what I realized, first time maybe I've realized it, I usually look at it as though you've got these clouds surrounding the light. But if I live in cloudland, right now, yeah. This what I do, everything I do is clouds. It's all clouds. All this is clouds. And the goal of this particular lesson, at least in 69, was when it says to get past the clouds, I'm actually not getting past anything of real substance. I'm trying to find the basis on which all the clouds are sort of like generated. They're resting on, in a sense. In other words, when I get to that light, this is what's weird and it's kind of hard to understand, is when I get to the light, the clouds actually go away. There are no clouds.
Right.
It's not that I've gotten past the clouds.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because, where there's light, the darkness is not. So when you get past them, it's true. They're not there. It's a non-existent thing.
And the other aspect of the lesson yesterday, before we could do into the one today, the other aspect is when I am in this light, all the people around me are also in this light. In other words, the apparent the apparent people in my world, the apparent situations, looking out on the day, the gray day or whatever, looking around this room or at you, these are all clouds, and they're all dark.
Right.
Now, when I manage to get, now none of it can enlighten me. None of it has the ability to enlighten me from the outside. I can't, nothing, no guru, no teacher, no teaching, nothing can wake me up, because that's what we're going to do on 70. My salvation comes from me.
Right.
So it's that moment of decision, of realizing that whether it's the Trump-Kamala show, or whether it's the wars, or whatever, or my health, my low back pain,
the hurricanes,
whatever it is, whatever those things are, they are dark, and they're dark end, as long as I look at them as outside of myself. And when I go into the light, and I'm in the light, and I'm in no better to understand reality in the light or outside of it. But I become illuminated. When this shadow self drops into that light, it lights up, right? It's almost like what I call it, like those light emitting diodes, like fiber
LEDs?
optics.
Oh, fiber optics.
It's like fiber optics, where you have a light source way over here, and it projects through the fiber optic way over there. It lights up way over there. When I light up, as like, we had that U-shaped thing.
Yeah.
So that's like a fiber optic. And so that when I bring myself into the light, even though I'm still a shadow self, I illuminate when I'm immersed in the light, which is within me.
Yeah, so that's what you are.
And that's what it said in Lesson 70. God does it, puts it within me so that it's doable, so that I can never be blocked from it.
Right.
And so anyway, so that's the only point I want to make by going back into that is when I illuminate, you light up. In other words, like if
everything. If I light up, everything lights up.
So let's say I'm in a
and no one can see the light in me until I choose to, as we did before, let all my grievances go. I mean, and do you want to let your grievances go? I mean, because the whole thing, love holds no grievances. That was the whole thing, is that you had to sit with it and say, okay, what are my grievances, and pull people out and everything else. And then you sit with it and you say, I'm willing to let them go so they can be your friend. And now we've come to this far, to where my salvation comes from me.
Yeah.
And it means that nothing is outside me. And then it also says that nothing outside me can give me peace. Nothing outside me can therefore hurt me or disturb my peace or upset me in any way. And that's something to really sit with, because it always seems like something outside me is disturbing me. It always does. I mean, it always seems like it.
Well, we were listening to Sai Baba, and I went through that, and I remember spending time in that setting, with Sai Baba in the ashram, or the whole Sai Baba thing, whatever. And it's really, really a wonderful thing, because, he's got a charismatic presence and all that kind of stuff. And as I said this morning, I told you that the people that are in that group, the Sai Baba organization, are all uplifted. They're all better people for participating in that subculture of Sai Baba.
Right.
Now, however, it's obvious when I do this lesson, and also the quote-unquote gurus say this, the relationship with the guru is so wonderful, the teacher, the external teacher, and it could be the Course in Miracles, could even be Jesus, really.
Right, absolutely, it could be Jesus.
That it's so wonderful. It's such an uplifting place to be in, that it actually acts as a block for me to find my salvation.
And yet,
comes from me.
in this one, I don't know if it was this one or the other one, I think it's in this one, where Jesus says, now visualize me, if it helps, visualize me taking your hand and taking you through the clouds.
Right.
Because it helps the mind to know that I have one that goes with me, because of the fears that we have about leaving the self that I've identified with behind. And so I think that, yes, it can be a block. if we think that person alone is my salvation, no, they're a helper. They are a helper along the way.
But they are. It's a pleasant thing.
Yeah, it is very pleasant.
It's.
I mean, if I have any visions of Jesus, popping into my, meditation or anything, or any other guru for that matter, it's always something that's uplifting to the heart. It actually brings it up.
I always like it. I like it when as I said before, the reason is because, in essence, whether it's the Sai Baba thing, the Course in Miracles thing, or some other external guru, that I do have an essential sense of feeling small and insignificant. I feel like something from the outside, a health concern, anything can just knock me out, just take me out. Mm-hmm. And that I'm not this powerful, strong thing. The shadow self that I'm aware of is absolutely blown around, so that when a Sai Baba or a guru or a Jesus or a whatever, the Course in Miracles, a teacher of the Course in Miracles comes in from the outside with their peace, with their reassurance, it really makes me feel stronger. And in their light, not my light, but in their light, I do feel stronger. And so I don't want it to go away. I don't want that culture to end.
Right, I agree.
Well, anyway, that's my point. So I just wanted to derail onto that, because I thought that this one, when we looked at it a little bit earlier, it seems like it comes out of 69. Right.
So and I mean, it's a powerful statement. My salvation comes from me. And that's the only place. Ultimately, it's all, as you have said, all of these projections that I have, all of these that are on my clouds they're my world, and that's what's coming at me, and I believe in that, but it can be used through this process to recognize it is all you. It's all the thoughts in my mind that are helping to create the world of war, all the, whatever it is that is disturbing me, they're all part of my mind.
Well, let's do it, and then just and then we'll do our meditation.
Okay. It may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that guilt is in your own mind. Let me start over. It may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that guilt is in your own mind entails the realization that the salvation is there as well. God would not have put the remedy for sickness where it cannot help. That is the way your mind has worked, but hardly his. He wants you to be healed, so he has kept the source of healing where the need for healing lies. You have tried to do just the opposite, making every attempt, however distorted and fantastic it might be, to separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended, and thus keep the sickness. Your purpose was to ensure that healing did not occur. God's purpose was to ensure that it did.
Now, I wanted to say this because I feel myself sometimes being bowled over, almost like a tidal current or a wave is coming over me and pushing me under, and my understanding just gets undone. What I think is happening here, I want to pay attention to this piece, is because healing immediately, as we've said many, many times, healing immediately goes to physical healing, because that's the one we're concerned with.
Right.
It's the one that bothers me. It's the one that rocks my boat.
Right.
The physical healing.
Right.
Now, the Course here, and it's critical, I think, to understand this, it's not talking about, the verbiage is not talking about physical healing per se. It's talking about the real sickness.
Is in my mind.
So let's say I do get a cold, or I get some sort of critical illness of some sort. It's always what hospital procedure, what doctor procedure, what new health practice, what naturopath, what natural technique, what inner healing modality. It's always something, what's going to heal this, but it's always a sense of what's going to fix me from the outside. That's the dynamic of physical sickness that is a subterfuge against understanding what the real sickness is. In other words, I set up a situation to where I got a bad back. I have to go to this thing. I do get physical therapy. I go to this doctor. I get this drug. Those are ways that something from the outside can fix me.
Right. Right.
And when I do that, I am taking, in a sense, the ego's drug. The ego's drug meaning, do you see how separate you are? Do you see how you need this ministration from the outside?
And yet they've done a lot of studies that say that while even using regular allopathic medicine and everything else, like chemotherapy and everything else, like I have my friend Chris, and she's gone through 2 cancer treatments, and the thing of it is that her prayer life is so strong that she allows it to be done to her, like the procedures and everything else. But her real faith is that God's going to carry her through it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. That, in other words, what the world does to me through my process of whatever healing is, when you bring the divine into it, and you're using, let's say, even nutraceuticals, any kind of vitamins and stuff like that, if I was taking them consciously and saying, I know this is what I think works for me or whatever, but Jesus, what I really want is your healing or whatever it is. I think when you bring in the element of divine and then recognize that you're getting healthier, even by saying that while you're taking the magic pills and stuff, that you have to recognize that someone's there working. Something is working there with you. And it is the self with the self. My brother, who's Jesus, is my self-aware. That's what he is. He's the self that is aware. And he's the extension that has already gone through what I think I have to do in process. But what I have to do is just let go of what I think I am. I mean, I say just, and it's not an easy thing to do. But that's but I just think it's kind of interesting. It was just something that came to mind with all of this, that, we'll do what we think is necessary, whether it's to take a hot bath with Epstein salts.
Let's see what's on your mind. Anyway,
Epsom salts.
But I start off with the whole thing about let's say the Sai Baba or the guru thing.
Yeah.
Where you've got this subculture where it's a beautiful and attractive subculture to be involved in, so that from the outside I can be led to, let's say, salvation or heaven or healing or nirvana or moksha or whatever, by following the ministration of another entity, and I can follow that along.
Isn't it interesting that because you did those and
but
everything
that's what
else.
Drugs do.
Yeah.
See, that's what drugs do. Drugs are, in that sense, you can see that drugs or medicines or whatever, or those interventions, are a guru.
Yeah, we make them our guru,
yeah.
Or
no, they're a guru.
They are guru.
We don't make them our guru.
Oh.
They are our guru. They are teaching us to rely on me for your salvation.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
So in that sense.
Okay.
Now, the difference is the pharmaceutical industry or whatever, they're not going to say, this drug is really just to release you so that you can heal yourself, and so you're going to take aspirin until you can heal your own. They don't do that, right? I mean, I understand that. Yeah. But to understand that the general situation, as the Course says, generalize these things. My dependence on a drug, my dependence on a guru, my dependence on a teaching is all projecting my salvation outside of myself. That's what its purpose is. In other words, all those things are meant to keep me sick. In essence, that's now.
Because whenever I think it's something outside of me, myself, that's healing me, well, it's going to keep me in a state of sickness. But it's going to keep me in a sick mind.
Well, the other Sai Baba,
I can't see the salvation comes from me.
The other Sai Baba would say, it takes a thorn to remove a thorn. In other words, you're walking along the path and you get a thorn in your toe or your foot, and the only way you can get that thing because it's entrenched, it's dug in there, is to get another thorn. And to remove it.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So theoretically, the medicine, the guru, the teacher from outside, those are the thorn to remove a thorn. So I have to realize that I'm using I'm using something that wounded me, that wounds me, which is the sickness. I'm using a form of the sickness to remove the sickness.
Okay.
And that's any sort of a subculture that develops even around A Course in Miracles, if there is one, where people love being together in this, the like minds, and going to the church of ACIM somehow, or any of those kinds of things. you have to constantly say it's a thorn to remove a thorn. But you know what? Just from my experience in the Sai Baba organization, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear that Swami isn't the central focus of everything. Even though the guy can say it again and again and again.
Right.
You are the same as I am. You have to discover the truth within. All these kinds of things.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear it. Honestly.
Yeah.
Millions upon millions. So few are the people. I mean, I'd say 1 out of 1,000.
Well, and that's why Jesus said he had to go away, and he sends the Holy Spirit.
Then that's exactly a good point.
Yes. Okay. You want to read 5 and 6?
Today we practice realizing that God's will and ours are really the same in this. God wants us to be healed, and we do not really want to be sick because it makes us unhappy. Therefore, in accepting the idea for today, we are really in agreement with God. He does not want us to be sick, neither do we. He wants us to be healed, so do we. We're ready for 2 longer practice periods today, each of which should last some 10 to 15 minutes. We will, however, still let you decide when to undertake them. We will follow this practice for a number of lessons, for it would again be well to decide in advance when would be a good time to lay aside for each of them, and then adhering to your own decisions as closely as possible. So, obviously we're doing this, late mid-morning. So anyway, go ahead. Let's keep going.
Okay, begin these practice periods by repeating the idea for today, adding a statement signifying your recognition that salvation comes from nothing outside of you. You might put it this way: my salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. Then devote a few minutes with your eyes closed to reviewing some of the external places where you have looked for salvation in the past, in other people, in possessions, in various situations and events, and in self-concepts that you sought to make real. Recognize that this is not there and tell yourself, my salvation cannot come from any of these things. My salvation comes from me and only from me.
Okay, now we'll try again to reach the light in you, which is where your salvation is. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light, and it is in them you have been looking for it. It is not there. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light, but remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you wanted. So see, the clouds are this reality that we're in. These are the clouds. And that it's very difficult to get past mental forms, physical forms, ideas, past experiences as means and methods. This light that I'm trying to find, I'm doing this because we're going to do this thing, right? We're going to do the lesson.
Right.
This light is in a now that has no reference points in my past experiences.
Right.
And it's an immediate situation that isn't really constructed out of my words or ideas in any sense. So this is it's a brave, and in a sense, there's some difficulty. I mean, the only way that you can go into it really is this, and I'm going to say a partnership with the Holy Spirit. I don't have the ability. I am a cloud.
Right.
This thing that's talking, I am one of the clouds.
Right. I know, it's kind of funny.
That's why medicine works, because it's all self-referential.
Right.
So, but I want to, in a sense, get past that thing that I think I am.
Absolutely.
And that includes all of the vocabulary and the thoughts and the attitudes I have about myself. And so anyway, I don't know.
And it takes a relaxation into stillness, because more and more in the lessons, I mean, we're not even that far through, but it more and more it asks us to reach a state of stillness. Attempt to reach a state of stillness where your thoughts are not intruding so much. And if they do, don't give them a whole lot of weight. Let them just fall away. Don't like try to analyze them or anything. Just let them go. I mean, there's been a lot of different progressions up to this point, so that when you sit in quiet to do the lesson, Yeah, it'll give you some ways, about going a little pushing away those little fluffy things, or, so that you can begin to see that the light is right on the other side, which is also in you. That becomes the unification of the holy with what the holy is in me, which I can't see so long as I believe that this cloud base that I'm here is the real thing. So...
I can never find that light as long as I think it's a cloud seeking the light.
Yeah, no.
I have to leave myself behind.
Yeah, you have to leave yourself behind. But it's not like you have to think about leaving yourself behind, because once you recognize, if you actually get to the point in the visualization where the light starts to dawn in the mind, it actually becomes like a light. Sometimes for me, it radiates from my heart space. But it becomes a light. That recognition immediately puts the body secondary. It just immediately puts the truth on top of the cloud. And the cloud becomes irrelevant mostly.
Right.
So as soon as that recognition happens, that's when they say, let it lift you up, let it carry you. Just as soon as that starts to happen in a meditation, if it happens for you, then you're supposed to kind of let it relax. Don't be afraid. Just let it lift you a little bit. Because as soon as you feel that lifting, you realize something else is there. And it has to be something else is there, because that's the truth of who you are.
But I also have to be careful of not inventing the lifting, and just to allow myself to be...
Right. But it does give you clues as to
myself, the way I would approach it is to put myself as a cloud on that altar, recognizing that it's a cloud. It can never achieve light. The cloud can never achieve light. The shadow self. And so that all I can do is put it on there and say, help me out here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
9?
Yeah. 9. Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there, when you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation. Try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. If it helps you to think of me holding your hand and leading you, if it helps you think of me holding your hand and leading you, and I assure you this will be no idle fantasy. So as soon as I think of Jesus holding my hand, and he says, it's real. It's a real thing. He's already there. He's always been there.
Well, the cloud has to be led to the altar. The cloud, I don't know how else to say this. I am a cloud self. And no amount of thinking, meditation, analysis, study will get this cloud, this shadow self, to be real. It cannot be reified. All I will do is make more solid the illusion that I am.
Right.
And so by taking Jesus' hand, he's saying, cloud, I'm a cloud. I am your cloud. I'm your holy cloud.
Right.
I'm Jesus. Jesus saying, I am your holy illusion in this. Here, take my hand if you need that kind of help. And it goes back to when my dad was, when I was carrying the Christmas tree with my dad, and I thought I was carrying half the tree, and he was actually carrying absolutely the whole tree, and I'm just holding on to some sprig.
I know, they're at the very top.
Yeah, I'm at like 3 years old. I'm just holding on to some random branch.
Oh, okay.
But I remembered, my body memory was that I was helping my dad carry the Christmas tree. But when I saw the home movies, it's so laughable that I'm just like hanging on to it.
That's really great.
No, it's crazy. It's absolutely.
I know.
So for the short and frequent practice periods today, remind yourself that your salvation comes from you, and nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. You are free from all external interference. You are in charge of your salvation. You are in charge of the salvation of the world. Okay, and I'm in charge of the salvation of the world is because when I enter the light, the clouds that the world are, they light up, they're illuminated. This is the happy dream aspect.
Right.
If this cloud, shadow self, understanding of myself as a local entity, bounded self, when it enters into this light with this assistance, all these are symbols of things. then all of those apparent other clouds, the people around me, the situation, they light up as well.
Right.
That and in that lighting up, that's called saving the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and that's, when we've talked about it, I would then look for it to appear in the news, in messages from other people.
Right. Yeah. And we're at a critical time, so the understanding that you're the salvation of the world and that what you think is now being made manifest, either through fears or through this light, this love. So it's up to us as to what kind of world we want to be entering into. We enter into it based on how we think of ourselves as the salvation of the world. So, I mean, if I'm going to hold a lot of fear about what's going to happen in these next months and years and everything else, then I'm going to reinforce those ideas of fear, and they will come through on my media. They'll be in the media. It could be tanks in the streets. Who knows? So I don't want to enjoin with that. It's really, really important as Course in Miracles people that we don't enjoin with the fear-based thoughts right now. But instead, we hold that we are the salvation of the world. And
I know, but none of that really matters per this lesson. I mean, what I'm saying is, it's a good thought. It's a good thought. Mm-hmm. But for this lesson, for lesson 70, the only thing that matters is to realize that clouds are clouds.
Well, that's true.
And my lower back pain might as well be the Ukraine. Just happens to rhyme.
We could put a little Ukraine back there, a little drawing of it.
Right. No, it's all the same. No, it's all the same. Yeah. All these so-called circumstances are the same. And to that extent, the only thing that matters is not what these particular issues are, but that they are all the same. Mm-hmm. My hangnail is the same as a mushroom cloud. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And so why does it matter? It doesn't matter because when I enter into that light as a shadow self, they will be saved. They will illuminate. That's the salvation of the world. So I don't have to worry about what's happening there because you and I are going to do the lesson and we're going to go into the light. Mm-hmm. And in that light, all these things are saved. All of them are solved.
Right. So the last statement is.
Well, let's do it. Let's do our meditation.
But you didn't read that. You didn't read. Say then, my salvation comes from me.
That's what I'm saying. Let's save it. Let's do our meditation.
Oh. At the very end, and for the short, frequent ones.
And then we'll come out and we'll remind ourselves of that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So start. So what? My salvation comes from me.
Okay, my salvation comes from me. And then there was these other parts. You're supposed to begin the practice periods by repeating the idea for today, and then adding a statement signifying your recognition that the salvation comes from nothing outside you. You might put it this way, my salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. And then you devote a few minutes with your eyes closed to reviewing some of the external places where you've looked for salvation in the past, in other people, in possessions, in various situations and events, and in self-concepts that you sought to make real.
And it cannot come from any of these things.
Yeah. And then you tell yourself, recognize it's not there. My salvation cannot come from any of these things. My salvation comes from me and only from me. So I'm going to keep that open so I can look at it.
So set the timer. What are you going to do, 20 minutes?
Yeah, we're going to do 20 minutes. Okay. And 20 minutes. And we begin.
short, frequent practice periods.
Remind yourself that your salvation comes from you, and nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. You're free from all external interference. You are in charge of your salvation. You're in charge of the salvation of the world. Say then, my salvation comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's salvation and my own. My salvation comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's salvation and my own.
Is that good? Any parting thoughts? What do you think?
Did you experience anything?
Yeah, I was pretty centered. I guess there's a kind of a, I've said this before, there's a sort of a poignant sadness that actually feels like joy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that not only am I sort of, me in a sense, I'm sort of useless to this process. The only thing I'm really good for is the amazing paradox of noticing that I'm not anything at all. It's a paradox,
Mm-hmm.
That I bring myself to this practice and I do these exercises, in a sense, to become nothing. Because the more of something that I am, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
And then the nothingness usually is also, if it goes complete, you'll recognize your wholeness. It goes from nothingness. If the nothingness of the ego sinks to the point of relinquishment, then what returns is wholeness.
Well, it's sad. It's got a sad component because just talking course talk, I've built myself. I've done so much to make me. I know that there's illusions in that, and delusional, that no one makes themselves and no one's self-developed. It's all an interdependency of factors.
Right.
But I still feel like I am my own project of self, and that when I am successful, quote unquote successful in the meditation, it is revealed as a shell game. Who cares? That it's not relevant to this process. In other words, the salvation of the world depends on me being nothing. It depends on me allowing that process of finding this light space. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's got a poignant quality. How about you?
I don't know, every once in a while I get some interesting little sort of visuals, because I felt like I was falling, like, I was trying to do the cloud thing or whatever. Instead, I was like falling into like a deep dark well. I was like yelling, Jesus. and then it's like he comes. Well, there was two things. And then I think I let myself go like to the bottom of the deep well. I can't remember how exactly this went. And it got really still. And then I saw like Jesus standing beside both of us, and he had his hands on our shoulders. And I was like saying, I was like, I want to be in the light. I was just like meditating, and he goes like this, and he took me as both, and he just flew us. He just threw us through the veil. It was very, very brief.
Kick me, Jesus, through the goalposts of life.
Anyway, it was something.
It was
something like that.
Right.
And then it just got really, really. I got really, really quiet after that. It was a quietness. But anyway, I always struggle in the beginning when I first start meditating because I have all kinds of different things come in.
Well, what is it again? My salvation
comes from me.
Comes from me.
It cannot come from anywhere else.
Okay, well, that's it then.
Okay. Thank you.